Hey guys, welcome back. So today it's a brisk one, but we're out and about doing our thing. We wanted to interrupt today's scheduled program to bring you 5 hidden costs and maybe misunderstood costs in the purchase process.
Yeah, whenever Keith and I first purchased our home, or purchased our first home, I should say, we weren't educated in this process. Our realtor didn't give us any information on cost of buying a home, what to expect, all these things. And so Keith and I are really passionate about educating people in this process.
Yep.
And so we just thought it'd be very helpful to bring this information to you so that you can be empowered, because knowledge is power. So,
Yep, and with that, we are gonna walk through 5 things that you need to be ready for when you're buying a home, all the costs, and if you guys want a full list of almost everything that you should be ready to pay for, in the comments, there's a link below. Click it, and we'll get you a helpful guide to walk you through all the expenses you should be ready to cover. All right, so we are going to dive into this. So the first thing you need to be aware of when you're closing on a home to purchase is going to be what we call closing costs. So closing costs, what are they? So closing costs are separate from your down payment. They're separate from other fees in the process. But closing costs are consisting of 4 different things. So right out of the gate, you have 1 to 2 months worth of mortgage payments. You have a 3 to 6 months buffer of property taxes. You have homeowners insurance, and you have to get a full year's policy paid up front. And then you have any lender fee. So let me just also say that because we've been in this game a long time, we can help you with people who are able to give you the best deals. So the lender that you work with matters, because part of your closing costs are the fees. So the more competitive the fees are, the less closing costs you have, which means less money out of your pocket. Also, some things to think through as well is that when you're buying your home, the location where the property taxes are. Some areas in Texas are 1.9%, 1.5%, maybe they're 2.7%, maybe they're over 3% property taxes. But all of those are going to add to not only your monthly payment, but also in the closing cost that you are required to pay when you sign your paperwork and you finish up the process on your home. So we can definitely help through all of those things, but it's important to know that that closing cost bucket goes into what we call the escrow. And your escrow is what the service department at your mortgage company uses to pay the bill for you when your taxes are due at the end of the year and when your insurance premium has to be renewed. Everything is put into your monthly payment, and it is serviced by the service department at your mortgage company. So just be mindful that most important and probably the most expensive part of the 5 that we're going to talk today is the closing costs, which is usually anywhere from 2 to 5%. Now this, again, separate from your down payment. So you have your down payment, and then you have this bucket of closing costs due when you sign your papers. And we talk about this because usually this is one of the most understood or least understood costs in the entire process.
But also you can negotiate those, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Thanks for throwing that in, Dave. You can actually ask sellers to cover a part of that. Now, sellers cannot pay for your down payment, but they can contribute to your closing costs. And that is actually the only way. You can't get a carpet allowance. You can't get a paint allowance. All these allowances you hear people toss, it's actually a myth. You can't get that, but you can get contributions to your closing costs and apply them to whatever. Now, again, that closing costs term is that's essentially what we're talking about. Those 4 categories, and it kind of balances out, because if you have a $2,000 carpet job that you want to do, and you don't have to pay $2,000 in closing costs because the seller is going to credit you that $2,000, then you could take that $2,000 and use it to do the carpet. So that's how it works out. Comes out in the wash, but that's a very big part of your closing obligation and one of the most misunderstood costs in the entire process.
And I just wanted to also add that the down payment can be gifted to you. So if you're looking to buy a home and you need 3% down, but you don't have that money, then you can go and ask a family member or whomever, and they can give that amount to you. And you need to make sure that they are willing to write a letter saying that that money is gifted to you, and that they are not expecting any of that money in return.
Yeah, definitely get all the details from your lender to make sure, but that is an awesome opportunity if you are in a place where you might come up a little short. Or you can take a seller contribution to your closing costs and take those closing cost dollars and apply them to your down payment. So let's say you have 10 grand to work with for both your down payment and your closing costs, but you get 5,000 from the seller. Well, now you can take that full 10 and put it toward your down payment, and the seller will help you with those closing costs. So that is the closing costs, and that is one of the biggest ones in the entire purchase process you need to be aware of.
Yep, and next up, we're going to talk about appraisals. Appraisals can be anywhere between like $500 to $700 maybe, and of course that's dependent upon your market and what the appraisers are charging, but usually right around that range. And if you're wondering what in the world is an appraisal, it's just basically the bank is requiring an appraiser to go out to the home to inspect it and consider all of the comparables in the area and how the market is doing, and just assess the value of the home that you're buying, because banks don't want to give you more money than they have to. And so if the home is priced too high, they don't want to have to be on the hook for a home that isn't worth that amount of money. So they just want to cover their bases, make sure that they've got, I guess, a good grasp on what they're lending that money to.
That's
or
exactly
who they're
right.
lending it
Yeah.
to. So,
and a couple of different directions on the appraisal. So if the appraisal comes in short, well, then you can go back to the seller and negotiate, unless you altered the contract to some degree. Now, all this is run-of-the-mill scenarios here. There's a lot of different variations, but run-of-the-mill scenario, if the appraisal doesn't come back, then you can go back to the seller and negotiate in most instances. If your appraisal comes in and the value of your home is higher than the contract,
great
well,
for you.
you got money
equity
in your pocket. That's right. You got equity and money in your pocket. So that's that's the ideal scenario.
Yeah, not necessarily money in your pocket. Money in your home.
Yeah.
In your home's worth, which will later translate. Yeah.
Yeah. Number 3.
I was going to say, though, real quick, so in this whole like COVID time, 2020, 2021, even up until like early 2022, lots of people were waiving their appraisal rights. So basically that meant that if a house was coming up, under what the market was saying, so if like there was a bidding war and people were saying, here, I'll give you $100,000 over the list price, they had to come up with that $100,000 to make up the difference. So that was happening a lot. Right now, the market has softened, and we are not seeing that quite as much, hardly at all.
Yeah,
so,
haven't in a while.
Yeah, so good for you guys. That means you don't have to come up with all that extra money. But yeah, that's appraisals for you.
All right, number 3. So number 3 is inspection costs. So when you're in Texas, you have what's called a option period. So the option period is the window of time that you can negotiate repairs and ensure the home is what you're paying for. And there's a special option that you pay for that if you exercise, you can terminate the home for any reason. We call it the unrestricted right to terminate. So when you are under contract and you have an option period, in that option period you can terminate for any reason whatsoever, and it does cost a small amount of money. But in that window of time, you get to do all of your due diligence, including your inspections. So when you do an inspection on a home, you're going to plan for anywhere from $500 to $600, depending on your inspector and the size of the home and its location and any outbuilding, or if it's got a larger garage or whatever. But you should plan between $400 and $600 to do a homeowner's inspection. And if you want to do anything above and beyond that, if your inspector says, hey, I recommend you get a roofer out here, or I recommend you do an electrical kind of like overview or a foundation situation, every one of those different things can be additional costs. So just know that when you're negotiating, you should make sure you have enough time in your option period, which now, to Judy's point, is a huge advantage, because you get to have that time that you did not have last year or even the year before. You had to do super fast option periods and pretty much take the house as is. Now you can do your due diligence and your inspections can be conducted, and you don't have to be stressed. You can have the time, look at your report, get the information you need to make sure you're getting a good sound purchase. But just know that inspection is going to be probably between $400 and $600, and any additional fee that you want to get any additional service that you're going to want with regard to inspections, roof foundation or whatever it may be, could be additional costs on top of that. So just be mindful when you're considering all the due diligence that needs to be done. Bank another $400 to $600 to get the home inspected.
Yeah, and there's a lot of acreage homes in Liberty Hills, so that means that you might have 3 to 5 inspections. I think when we weren't living in an acreage community when we sold our last house, but when we purchased that house, I think we had 11 inspections, and not all of these trades are going to come and do these inspections for free. I mean, granted, if something is wrong, that means that they'll be able to get that business to correct that item, but a lot of these people have service calls or whatever fee that they charge to come and inspect these different functions, I guess, of the home.
Whether it's a septic or well or pool or whatever else.
I was going to say, I started off with acreage thing because a lot of these homes out here have wells, have septic tanks, and you'll need to get those inspected. Your general inspector will glance at those, but if you want a thorough inspection of those, then you're going to probably have to come out of pocket even more to have those inspections done. So keep that in mind when you're purchasing, consider those factors. So,
all right, fee number 4 that you need to consider is going to be a MUD or a PID. Okay, so MUDs and PIDs are different entities that exist to provide utility services or community improvement projects, depending on where you live, most often for up-and-coming communities. So a MUD is called a municipal utility district. It's actually a government entity, and again, it regulates your community's service of utilities, be it water or electricity or whatever else. And it's usually on, kind of the outskirts of the main bulk of what is considered a city. So we lived in Austin for a long time, and just outside the main downtown hub of Austin, we lived in an area that was serviced by a large MUD, and that MUD was additional taxes. Now, a MUD is not as expensive. You're going to see it just a little bit more monthly, and that's all going to be in your monthly payment. So in addition to your property taxes, you'll have that additional MUD tax, which will be added to your monthly property tax balance. So just know a MUD is something that you want to be aware of if you're going to be buying in a community that has one. The other item is going to be a PID, or a property improvement district. So what that PID will do is provide resources, funds, specifically to a large project that was voted on and approved by the area in which your house resides. So in Butler Farms, for example, it's a few $100s for a PID to live in that community, and that PID, that PID, is going to develop that community to provide more resources for the homeowners, and it's shared collectively amongst all of its residents. So MUDs and PIDs, you want to be aware of those. And just know, if you have questions about those, we'll keep it really high level for now. Reach out to us. We'd be happy to walk through those in great detail. All right, number 5. All right, number 5. Number 5 is really a cost that we wanted to address, and it's a sneaky one because you never know how much this one will come up and bite you in the backside. And it really is not a cost during the process, it's actually after your closing. And that is all of the costs associated with moving and settling into your new home. So if you just bought a house, and Dave, I know you can speak to this, we have had multiple homes, and we've moved multiple times, and we're always enormously astounded by the amount of cost just to get settled in. So you can usually go do your bids and get your quotes for all your moving expenses and add at least 15% to it. Okay, so when you get your moving quotes, add to it. Whenever you get your box quotes and your tape quotes and all these other numbers you put together, add 15% to it. And just know that when you're in the home, you're gonna be like, I actually need another couch, or I need another chair, or hey, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I needed to mow my lawn. I need a lawnmower and a gas can for my lawnmower, and all these things. So add additional cost to your transition because it is expensive. You know, you want to get that new TV for the living room. You want to get the new blinds, or window treatments, or decor, or all these things. And I live with a woman who loves I'm just kidding. She's very balanced.
Okay, I do design work as well. Well, I did.
She's like, go sell more houses. So the point is, these costs can add up, and you need to be mindful. So, and babe, I know you have plenty to speak to this.
Yeah, but just moving costs alone, not even talking about decking out the house or doing these little projects to enhance the home or whatever. Just moving costs alone are just always astronomical and way more than we were budgeting for. And it's like, dang it!
Always.
How do we always get this wrong?
Always.
But yeah, the moving expenses, and maybe it's because we pay people hourly. I don't know. Maybe we should try a moving company that just gives us a flat rate and does it all. But man, every time we hire movers and we're paying hourly, it just comes out to way more than we were expecting. And then you've got to factor in your boxes and your packing tape and your paper and your bubble wrap and all that stuff. And it just adds up. And then all your trips to Goodwill or Salvation Army or wherever it is that you're donating all the junk that you've accumulated. It's like, oh man, it's a headache.
Yep.
So, yes. Always account for more than you think it's going to be.
So get your plan in place, get your budget in place, and then when you exceed your time and your money and you're super discouraged, don't be, because you're just like everybody else.
You're not alone.
And that's how it is when you move. So just know that those costs creep up, and look, either be willing to space it out over time and kind of pay as you go, or whip out the old credit card. But just know it's not going to be a budget that, you know, it's usually going to be more than you're planning. Now, you know, you may be a very simplistic individual and keep the budget super minimal and you succeed at it. Kudos, congratulations. You're
maybe
the first
just
one.
Move all the stuff yourself with a group of friends. That's awesome.
Well, we've got stories about that. But I think we've had the police called on us because of, oh my gosh. I think we've had the police
Y'all
called
got
on
me
us.
up close there for a second.
Yeah, it was a 3D attack. So, all right, so those are the 5 costs you need to be aware of when you're making the move and buying a home. Just know that, again, you know, these are going to be a part of a lot more expenses, but don't be intimidated. Just reach out to us. We can guide you through all of it.
Absolutely.
And don't forget, in the comments below is a link. Click it. We'll get you a list of all the expenses that you should be ready for when you make the transition. If you have any questions about anything in real estate or Liberty Hill or the greater Austin Northwest area, definitely let us know. We'd love to help you.
All right. Until next time.
We'll see you
See
around
y'all
the
around
hill.
the hill.